So let's say the superintendent called you into their office and said, "You're out of shape." That'd be kind of weird, right? You'd feel a certain type of way about that. To make things even weirder, your significant other is in the office with the superintendent when they tell you this information. Unbeknownst to you, they decided on a plan for how you're going to get into shape. This plan included all of the bad habits that you have that are contributing to you being out of shape. It also has consequences and incentives for you not stopping these bad habits. They sit you down, explain everything to you, and then ask you to sign it. So take a moment and think, how are you going to feel about this? Are you going to look at both of them and say thank you? Or are you going to look for another job and possibly a new spouse? We all can agree that the picture I just painted doesn't make sense. But for whatever reason, we can't agree that behavior contracts don't make sense. I have no data to back this up, but I'm going to go on a limb and say that 9 out of 10 behavior contracts don't work. And from the look on some of your faces, I would assume that some of you agree that that statistic might be accurate. Part of the reason behavior contracts don't work is because they play out very similar to the situation I described earlier. We meet first without the student and figure out everything they're doing wrong. We narrow down the main behaviors they need to work on. Then we come up with incentives and consequences for when they do and when they don't meet the expectation. After all this is done, we bring the student in, we explain the contract to them, and ask them to sign it. We're essentially banking on the balance of incentives and consequences to change this specific student's behavior. And 3 weeks later, we're scratching our heads trying to figure out why this didn't work. Maybe it's because we didn't do anything to work on the behavior. There's an old saying that if you know better, you do better. And by coming up with a contract that's only based on incentives and consequences, you're assuming that they already know better. But in order to change a behavior, you have to give an alternative behavior. If we want these behavior contracts to work, we have to work on changing the behavior.